end to the day across much of England and Wales, lots of late sunshine as well. This band of cloud will slowly push its way southwards, reaching central areas by the end of the night. To the north of it, largely dry as well. Just a few showers, a bit more of a breeze across northern Scotland. Now, across the north, it will be a fresher night to come. Temperatures much more comfortable. But in the southeast, look at these. Temperatures not dropping below 18 or 19 degrees, which I think will be fairly uncomfortable for sleeping. So we go to a fairly cloudy start across this central slice to start the day. So some patchy rain at first, but through the day, I think that rain will turn heavier, more persistent. Some showery rain, so some areas will avoid the worst, but it could be thundery by the afternoon, so that's one to watch. To the north of it, largely dry and fine, plenty of sunshine, still a few showers, more of a breeze across the far north of Scotland. And to the southeast, whilst it will be rather cloudy, it will be mainly dry and bright. Still warm here, 25 or 26, but temperatures won't be as high, and noticeably fresher once again across more northern areas. So many areas in the south will see some rain as we head into Sunday. That will gradually clear through, and as it does so, we see dry, bright, fine conditions for many areas. But look at these temperatures, noticeably fresher than they would have been on Friday.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, on your TV, radio and online this morning. I'm with you all the way through until midday with this show jam-packed, full of today's biggest stories, loads of discussion and top gas, and there'll be a few surprises along the way as well. Make sure that you get in touch with your views, as usual, gbviews@gbnews.uk. I'll be getting to those throughout the show, but first, it's time for the latest news.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning. It's coming up to 1 minute past 10. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. London Gatwick is cutting the number of daily flights this summer to help tackle issues with staffing. The airport will limit its number to 825 flights a day in July and 850 in August. That's down from 900 in previous years. Gatwick said the decision was taken to help passengers experience a more reliable and better standard of service. It added the vast majority of scheduled flights will run as normal. Well, that as Gatwick Airport says staff shortages played no role in the death of a disabled passenger as they were leaving a plane. It says the incident occurred while airport staff were helping disembark 3 passengers with restricted mobility. EasyJet confirmed the death in a statement yesterday. The man reportedly fell down an escalator after getting off the plane without a helper. A formal investigation is underway. The Chancellor has suggested there'll be no personal tax cuts until rising prices are brought under control. In a letter to the Bank of England's Governor, Rishi Sunak said fiscal policy must remain responsible and not exacerbate inflation. He added that the government's new temporary measures will help households manage costs of living pressures. The bank increased interest rates to 1.25% yesterday, the fifth rise in a row, and predicted inflation will top 11% in the autumn. Business and finance commentator Michael Wilson thinks prices are spiralling.
These prices are getting to a stage now where the general public will be saying, do you know what, I don't think actually we need to make that journey anymore. That is what economists call demand destruction. In other words, when people say enough's enough, I'm not going to spend any more, I really will cut back on food, I really will cut back on fuel. I think that the personal consumers, and we are in a consumer society, should be asking themselves some very serious questions about where they're spending money and whether they need to.
The AA's president says road charges should be waived during the rail strike next week to help ease the burden on drivers. Half of rail lines will be closed on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday as the RMT union strikes over pay and conditions. It's also staging a 24-hour walkout with Unite on the London Underground on the Tuesday. In an interview with the Daily Telegraph, the AA president said parking charges, congestion and clean air zones should be suspended. The European Union's executive is expected to propose Ukraine becomes a formal candidate for EU membership. It's after the leaders of Germany, France and Italy visited President Zelensky in Kyiv yesterday and signalled the country should be granted candidate status. Meanwhile, a summit's being held in London today to discuss how British companies can help rebuild key infrastructure in Ukraine once the war is over. Ukrainian delegates will meet with British businesses and the International Trade Secretary Anne-Marie Trevelyan. The head of the UK's armed forces, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, says strategically Russia has lost the war.
The Ukrainian people, they've already defeated the original Russian plans, which were to take the cities inside 30 days and in about 6 weeks take most of the country. So President Putin has used about 25% of his army's power to gain a tiny amount of territory.
MPs are accusing the government of creating a hostile environment for peaceful protesters in their latest attempt to stop disruptive demonstrations. The public order bill was drawn up to strengthen police powers to tackle disorderly protesters in response to groups such as Insulate Britain and Extinction Rebellion. But the Joint Committee on Human Rights is calling for changes to the draft, claiming the measures threaten the rights of those who want to protest peacefully. The Omicron COVID variant is less likely to cause long COVID than the Delta strain. Researchers at King's College London found the odds of experiencing long COVID were between 20 and 50% lower during the Omicron period when compared with the Delta. That also depended on age and time since vaccination. Its lead author, Dr. Claire Steve, said 1 in 23 people who catch COVID-19 go on to have symptoms for more than 4 weeks. Parts of the UK today could reach up to 34 degrees as the Met Office issues a level 3 heat health alert for London, the east of England and the south east. Level 3 alerts are issued to help healthcare services prepare for possible increases in demand due to the temperature rises. Well, weather expert Phil Morris says it's a very hot Friday in England and Wales, not very typical of Britain, but be warned, the rain's on its way.
A cold front coming down on tomorrow, Saturday. That's going to engage the cold, the hot air. Now, Scotland and Northern Ireland today are not really going to enjoy this heat wave or endure it, depending on your point of view. Cooler air is coming down, and as this cold front comes down tonight, it'll meet this warmer air, hot air, and create some heavy showers tomorrow.
Well, take care in the heat today. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now, though, it's back to Patrick with To The Point.
A very good morning to you all. It feels good to be back here in the daytime. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, on your TV, radio and online. I've got a great show lined up for you to kickstart your day and drag you, hopefully, kicking and screaming into the end of your week before you all go outside and enjoy the glorious weather. So here's what's coming up on the menu. London Mayor Sadiq is giving a keynote speech on ways in which the Metropolitan Police Force is going to reform itself. So what is his plan and will it be likely to work? Those are the questions I'm going to ask Police and Crime Commissioner for Kent, Matthew Scott, next. Now, meanwhile, are people going to die because of these rail strikes? Yes. That's a grim warning from Health Secretary Sajid Javid, as he says that transport chaos will likely mean people might not be able to get to hospital when they need to. I'll also ask a cab driver whether road congestion will really be that bad next week as well when these strikes take place. I don't know where this lot get off, frankly, Basically, it's full of misery for them, isn't it? And finally, are local councils out of control? Shock, horror, the Green Run, Brighton and Hove Council have banned residents from using weed killer, meaning their pavements have been taken over by runaway weeds. It's one way to rewild the place, isn't it? I'll look into that a lot more later, although I suppose you can't tell because they very rarely take the bins out there anyway, so that'll probably cover the weeds. Anyway, I have all of that coming up and much, much more across the programme, and you can get in touch with your views, as usual, on gbviews at gbnews.uk. But first, here's my views on the state of this nation. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm sick and tired of this country being held to ransom. This week, so far anyway, we've been dictated to by a foreign court who decided to override the verdicts of our own national courts. The ECHR and their anonymous foreign judges managed to somehow fast-track a stay of deportation for those on that Rwanda flight, despite having a backlog of, get this, some 10,000 cases awaiting just an initial examination. They haven't even looked at them yet. Remarkable, isn't it? Remarkable that they could do all this so quickly. It's almost like it's political. Now, we've got people arriving on our shores, landing in dinghies here in the UK, saying that they'd simply refuse to get on a plane to Rwanda. So they'd refuse to be deported, basically. Well, forgive me, but I don't think it should really be up to them, should it? And next week, it looks like we're going to be held to ransom by those pesky unions. That's right. Rail strikes could see entire towns and cities cut off from one another. Doctors and nurses unable to get to work, which will cost lives. Children who've worked hard for their GCSEs and A-levels unable to get to school. People unable to get to work. The strikes are set to cost our economy around £150 million, right in the middle of a cost of living crisis. It's a joke. And it's especially ludicrous when you think that this is mostly an argument about pay. Well, according to the Taxpayers Alliance, the ironically named Mick Cash, that's right, he's actually called Mr. Cash, who is the RMT's former General Secretary, took home a total remuneration of £163,500 in 2020. Including, I know, it takes the wind out yourself, doesn't it? Including £1,432 in car benefit alone. Steve Headley, former RMT Senior Assistant General Secretary, had a total remuneration of 94 grand, including basically nearly 3 grand in car benefit in the same year. Former RMT Assistant General Secretary, and who was previously as well the General Secretary, Mick Lynch, had total remuneration of £118,500 in 2020. Now, the average train driver salary is 48.5 grand. That's not too bad, is it? What do you earn? The annual wage of a full-time tube driver was revealed as 56.5 grand. Now, I could just about tolerate it if the service was good, but as far as I can tell, some train routes are basically just a lottery. On the Avanti West Coast Line, you'd have more chance of arriving on time if you travelled by homing pigeon, and the facilities would probably be better as well. And then, of course, we're held to ransom by the eco-mob. They tie themselves to things with signs around their neck like, oh, we've only got a few years left to live. Well, they'd have a lot less if we just left them there, wouldn't they? Mass protests and criminal damage has meant that we've caved into their ridiculous demands, and lo and behold, we're now bankrupting ourselves as a result. We're being held to ransom as well by fringe radical groups within the Muslim community who mob up and take to the streets in protest at the slightest offence, and they usually get their way. I think this country needs to go for an MRI scan, or an X-ray, actually, because we appear to have lost our spine. It's time to stop giving in to these things. Once people smell blood, they go in for the kill, don't they? It's time that we took back control of our legal system. It's time that we stood up to the unions, and it's time we defended our culture and our way of life. OK, get those views coming in, GB Views, gbnews.uk. We'll go to those shortly. But the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, is giving a keynote speech now about reforms to the Metropolitan Police. It comes after he recently said the evidence of systemic sexism, racism and homophobia, discrimination, misogyny. He's playing bingo there, isn't he? But there we go. And, of course, he's going to basically say how he's going to hope that they can move forward. Shall we just go to that right now? Let's go to it, shall we? Let's have it.
And ensuring that we take the right path is crucial for the future of our city. At the outset, I must and want to put on record again that there are tens of thousands of incredibly brave and decent police officers in the Met. Dedicated public servants who go above and beyond every day to keep us safe. Just last week, a Metropolitan Police officer ran into a house fire to save a family. And every year, the Police Bravery Awards highlight some remarkable stories of courage in London. From 2 police officers saving the life of a 7-year-old girl who was being attacked, to officers saving the lives of 2 teenagers after they used themselves as human shields. The job the police do protecting us and upholding the law of the land makes everything else possible. It's the bedrock upon which all else can flourish. And we owe the men and women who risk their lives, often in the knowledge that they have children and loved ones to get home to after a shift, a huge debt of gratitude. So let's be clear. Talking about the need for urgent police reform is not being anti-police. Far from it. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's about believing the police can be excellent. And it's about facing up to some hard truths so that we can ensure we have the best, most effective, and most professional police force for Londoners. A police force that is second to none at bearing down on crime, bringing people to justice, and keeping our city safe. Throughout my time as mayor, I've defended London's police when I think they've been unfairly criticised. And this is something I will always do. No other mayor has invested more in the police than I have. Good officers are one of the most valuable and precious resources we have in London. But given what's at stake, we have a duty to be honest about the extent of the problems and the systemic and organisational changes that are urgently required within the Met, rather than seeking to downplay or shy away from the challenge we face. The reality is that a series of appalling scandals have not only exposed deep cultural problems within the Met, but have contributed to an acute crisis of confidence in London's police force. A crisis that has left trust in the Met Police at rock bottom among too many communities, many of whom, if we're being honest, already had little faith in the police force. The latest crisis comes in the wake of the kidnap, rape and murder of Sarah Everard by a serving police officer. The heavy-handed policing of the vigil held in Sarah's memory. 2 police officers sharing pictures of the murdered sisters Beba Henry and Nicole Smallman. The failures during the Stephen Port investigation that probably contributed to the deaths of his final 3 victims, Gabriel Kavari, Daniel Whitworth and Jack Taylor, after the murder of Anthony Walgate, with accusations that homophobia prevented the police from catching the serial killer sooner, and the shameful strip search of Child Q, a 15-year-old black girl whose degrading treatment was likely influenced by racism. The testimony of Child Q's mother about how her daughter has gone from a bubbly, happy-go-lucky girl to someone who's self-harming, in need of therapy and screaming in her sleep has been utterly heartbreaking. And I'll never forget the first time I read the shocking Operation Houghton report by the Independent Office for Police Conduct, police watchdog, just over 4 months ago. It exposed sickening evidence of overt racism, sexism, homophobia, discrimination, and misogyny among police officers at Charing Cross Police Station. The messages shared between officers threatened rape, glorified sexual violence, and were openly racist, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitic. One read, "My dad kidnapped some African children and used them to make dog food." Another, "Some uniform or plain clothes work on Somalian rats. I battered one the other day." And another, "You ever slapped your missus? It makes them love you more." I'm not going to read any more, don't worry. But perhaps what was most striking and revealing was that these officers felt comfortable sharing deeply offensive messages in WhatsApp groups with other officers. Messages that were only made public due to an independent investigation. And this points to a much wider problem, a damaging culture. And damningly, the Independent Office for Police Conduct concluded as much. Clearly, these issues were not isolated or historic and cannot simply be explained away as the actions of just a few bad apples. I know that what's been exposed in recent months has profoundly affected countless Londoners who have every right to be outraged and to be demanded answers. These are feelings I share. The scandals have left me sick to my stomach, disgusted and extremely angry. Partly because they remind me, and I'm sure many other Londoners, of the bad old days of the Met. The Met I knew from my childhood. Growing up in the 1970s and 80s on a council estate in South London, it was commonplace to hear stories from friends and family of racist, sexist and abusive behaviour by police officers. There was a palpable sense in my community that the presence of the police on our local streets did not offer reassurance or a sense of protection, but rather fear. The fear of being unfairly criminalised or mistreated. In my life, and during the course of my career, I've seen and felt the damage this kind of breakdown of trust can cause. It makes it harder to tackle crime. It prevents victims and witnesses of violence from coming forward. It discourages many girls and women from reporting rape, domestic abuse, and sexual harassment. And it leads to local communities, the eyes and ears of the police on the ground, becoming less likely to work with officers when, for example, they're worried about young people getting involved in criminal gangs and violence. This affects us all and the safety of everyone in our city. This is why the damage to trust and confidence in the police is not a side issue or marginal concern that can be downplayed or dismissed. Trust is everything. You know, we have a long-standing tradition in this country of policing by consent. It's the very foundation upon which our whole system of policing rests. At the heart of this approach is the recognition that for policing to be effective, public approval, respect and confidence in the service is paramount. When this trust is eroded, our model of policing, and thereby public safety, is put at risk. Trust is absolutely fundamental to preventing crime, to solving crime, and to ensuring we have the best possible police service for Londoners. This is why you simply cannot divorce the deep cultural issues that clearly exist within the Met from its wider performance as an institution. The two are inextricably linked. To put it simply, the more inclusive the culture, the more trust the police can command. The more trust the police can command, the more they can drive down crime. And in turn, the more crime falls, the more trust the police.
OK, well, that's Sadiq Khan there, obviously kind of waffling on quite a lot, but we were hoping that he was going to unveil at some point his plan to reform the Metropolitan Police or some ideas or solutions. I think what he did there was, of course, highlight, don't get me wrong, some very, very shocking instances, but as yet, we are yet to hear any kind of solutions from the London Mayor. Talking a lot about trust, I wonder how you feel about that. You know, is trust, there's that notion of policing by consent, OK, that's fine, and is it about the public having to trust the police, or is it maybe about the police just singularly having to tackle crime? How do you feel? gbviews@gbnews.uk. Is that all a bit upside down? Anyway, I'm joined now by Matthew Scott, Police and Crime Commissioner for Kent. We'll lob it back over to Sadiq as and when he makes a coherent point. But I thank you very much for joining me. I mean, did you hear any of that so far? I'm not sure if you could hear what Sadiq was saying.
Yes, and I've also had his press release as well.
Right.
I mean, he's been the mayor for 6 years. He's giving this speech now. Where was this speech 6 years ago? What it demonstrates is that he's so willing to flip-flop on his support for policing. He indulges in anti-police populism at times to appeal to certain elements of the electorate, and then backs the police when he thinks it's convenient for him. The trust and confidence in the Metropolitan Police demands a much more serious response than that. And I've had a look at some of the things that he's going to propose, and many of these things other police forces...
You get to them a lot quicker than he was, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's looking at improving the vetting of police officers, of course, the right thing to do. Monitoring of IT systems, of course, the right things to do. Ensuring people have the confidence to come forward of whistleblowers, things that other police forces do. Proactive procedures to wean out those who are committing wrongdoing, things that other police forces are doing. So what he's basically doing is copy and pasting effectively good processes from other police forces and labelling them as his own plan, whereas he's been the mayor for 6 years. Where was this before?
And I mean, do you think what I heard there was, look, there are undoubtedly some horrific things. I mean, the Sarah Everard case, of course, the case of Bieber Henry there was shocking again. It sounds like what went on at Charing Cross Police Station was awful as well. We can't get around all that stuff, OK? That was terrible. He said there, he made the point, we can't just say this is a few bad apples. The insinuation there is, well, it's not an insinuation, it's what he's saying, is that the Metropolitan Police is inherently and institutionally racist, misogynistic, sexist, etc., etc., it's homophobic, whatever. Is that fair? Because if I was a member of the public now watching this and I was sat somewhere in a, you know, let's say, you know, a more deprived part of London, for example, where there's already pockets there of out-and-out hatred for the police, as far as I can tell, mostly because they don't want the police to stop them committing crimes, I'd be listening to that now and almost be thinking, well, fair play, I can just crack on.
Well, and this is the issue. You don't build trust by turning up every now and then for a photo opportunity. You show real leadership and you go out into those communities that yourselves and you deal with them head on. You're absolutely right to say that he has highlighted some absolutely shocking cases which have been highlighted in the Met Police. But at the same time, there are tens of thousands of interactions that the police will have with members of the public every single day, which will positive, which will go unrecognised. Trust in the police from the members of the public is generally high. There are certain communities, as you rightly say, who trust the police less, and work needs to be done there. But again, he's had 6 years to do all of this, and it's his undermining of the Metropolitan Police, his failure of oversight to actually be involved, and actually most of the time just delegating it to someone else, means that it hasn't had the corporate leadership in order to deliver any of these things.
I mean, the fact is, if you tried to stop Sadiq Khan in the street and ask him what he thought about the Met Police, he wouldn't talk to you, he'd leg it away. But actually, because there's loads of cameras there, then lo and behold, we've got to listen to him. Matthew Scott, thank you very, very much, Police and Crime Commissioner for Kent. Thank you for joining me, great stuff. And thank you, frankly, as well, for outlining what Sadiq Khan was going to say in that speech about 10 minutes before Sadiq Khan ever would have got round to it. So, great stuff. Right, now, you've been getting in touch with me on gbviews@gbnews.uk, and here's what you've been saying, OK? Lots of you have been getting in touch about what's been going on with Sadiq Khan, basically saying he's trying to undermine the police force. I know that Khan's description of the allegation of bad behaviour became facts, not accusations, very quickly in his speech. That's from John. And saying because we can't recruit enough police, this is a problem. That's from Michael. There's a lot of this going about, really, to be fair, at the minute. But one of the other big issues that you've been getting in touch with is landlords. Landlords will be forced to refund rent if they don't keep homes in an acceptable condition. So just one change in the biggest shake-up of the private rented sector in 30 years. How does this affect you? I imagine people are struggling to buy at the minute. Quite possibly a lot of you are renting. So Housing Secretary Michael Gove announced a whole raft of changes yesterday, including fixed-term tenancies, being replaced with open-ended agreements, so renters will only have to move when there is a good reason. So around 4.5 million families live in the private rented homes, in England alone, that is. But a fifth of the properties are deemed unfit, which is a whopping great big number, isn't it? So how have these changes gone down with private landlords? Joining me now is Christopher Worrell, who's the host of the Priced Out podcast. Thank you very much, Christopher. So, is this a boon for tenants or bad news for landlords?
Well, the devil will be in the detail, but ultimately what the government set out is that they want to have all tenants to have access to good quality and a safe home, and that no one should pay rent to live in a substandard or dangerous accommodation. Now, we've seen a lot of lobbying from Shelter, Generation Rent, and even the Labour Party on this issue. And what we're effectively seeing is, we're seeing that there's going to be 29 hazards that local authorities can be in force on, and they need to be able to get improvement orders or repair orders that can be issued around those things. So this can include good repair or appropriate facilities, or even things like Wi-Fi, which is, in modern day terms, something that we can be expected, as well as a temperature controlled home. But ultimately, there's still a bit more to go in this regard. Tenants need someone to arbitrate and mediate that in order to prevent costly sums going to courts. Now, they're going to be bringing in an ombudsman around that. Whether or not they bring in inventories as a mandatory requirement, that might help monitor that. But we've got to remember, 65% of private landlords do not even use letting agents. And, if I was a tenant, I would want my home to be professionally managed and served by professionals in that regard. And if it is easier to go out on your own, there may be, an inclination for landlords to sort of have to go more into the professionalisation of this sector as a result of this change. So there could be benefits for both parties.
Part of me does wonder as well, obviously we're getting out of the aftermath of the pandemic, and certainly financially for lots of people that's clearly having a knock-on effect. We've got the cost of living crisis, and you do feel for people, of course, who just can't afford rent and things like that, of course. But at the same time, if you are a private landlord, that's, in a way, your business, really. And if someone isn't paying up, should it be made more difficult to get rid of them?
Well, what we're going to be seeing now is a move from the end of Section 21 or a no-fault eviction to more of a reason-based move. Now, this actually is going to be giving landlords a lot more ability to move on people for reasons that are, at fault. So things like antisocial behaviour or, rent arrears, these kind of things. Now, ultimately, landlords would often use Section 21 as a convenient way to deal with arrears where a tenant doesn't necessarily have any money. And why go for the hassle of a court order to do that? And that was under the old system. But now we've got to be careful for the tenants here and how this will impact, vulnerable people. Because if you've gone through the use, if you went to the local authority after receiving a Section 21 notice under the old system, you would be deemed, at no fault. However, if you're going to be, receiving a fault eviction under this new system, what happens to those people? Are they made intentionally homeless as a result of rent arrears? Well, or antisocial behaviour as a result of a mental health breakdown? It's going to be what we've got.
Quite possibly. And there is that old thing about you're only ever a couple of missed paychecks away from potentially being homeless, and certainly in this day and age at the minute. Christopher, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. Christopher Worrell there, of course, is the host of the Priced Out podcast. Do yourself a favour, if you're struggling at the minute or you just want some info on home ownership and renting, etc., and let's be honest, it's a minefield at the minute, then make sure you check out that podcast. But we'll delve into the inbox now, gbviews at gbnews.uk, and Gary's been in touch. Gary says, the Mayor of London should be of the same political party as the government in charge of our country, as London is our capital. And it's a really interesting point, that, Gary, actually, because if London's I suppose, really pulling in a different direction politically from the vast majority of the rest of the country, then that can pose a massive problem, can't it? But Wendy's been in touch, and thank you for this, Wendy. I'm very sorry to read this. Wendy says, I have absolutely no trust in the police. I called them out after my ex had broken my ribs. Says, I had it on CCTV. They bullied me to drop it. This is Wendy's view, of course. And she says that she ended up with more injuries as a result because obviously they didn't remove him from the property. And he says, I'll never trust the police again. And that's obviously your personal experience, Wendy. And I think that's shocking. That, for me, is obviously bad policing. Whereas what Sadiq Khan seems to be talking about here is an institution culture, really, of out-and-out racism, misogyny, sexism, etc. Hey, and maybe that was what you felt as well, Wendy. Maybe you felt you weren't listened to because you were a woman. I don't know. But, yes, I mean, look, a lot of people are saying as well that cultural problems in the Met have long been an issue. It's not something new. But what do you think, really, about all of this? Sadiq Khan is not going down particularly well with you guys in the inbox, is it? A lot of people feel like he doesn't quite get out and about. He's not as front-facing. And, yeah, I do wonder what you think, though, about whether or not you think that basically police reform is drastically needed, because I think there's that difference, isn't there? It's a bit like the stop and search debate, people, that we have all the time here, which is whether or not the police are there to be kind of kind and benevolent and check your feelings, or whether or not they're there to enforce the law. You know, are they there to ask someone how they are before they stop and search them on suspicion of carrying a knife? Are there certain issues in certain communities, maybe because they don't want to get stopped and searched in case they might actually be carrying a knife? Or are they discriminated against? GB Views at gbnews.uk. Get those views coming in. But after this break as well, as more people reportedly believe in ghosts, yes, bit of light relief here, people. As more people reportedly believe in ghosts than Her Majesty's government, I thought, let's take this right to the top. I'll be joined by a ghost hunter to see if that faith is well placed. Don't say you're not treated to some highbrow stuff right here on To The Point. But before that, yes, it's the headlines.
Thank you, Patrick. It's 10:33. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Home Secretary Priti Patel has signed an order to extradite Julian Assange to the US, where he'll face charges of espionage. The WikiLeaks founder retains the normal 14-day right to appeal. The Home Office said the UK courts haven't found that extradition would be incompatible with his human rights, including his right to a fair trial and to freedom of expression. Hundreds of railway workers at South Eastern will vote on whether to strike as disputes over pay and jobs continue. The ballot opens next weekend and closes on the 11th of July, which could see strikes start from July the 25th. That as half of rail lines get ready to close on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday of next week because of an RMT union strike. The RMT is also staging a 24-hour walkout with Unite on the London Underground on Tuesday. London Gatwick is cutting the number of daily flights this summer to help tackle issues with staffing. The airport will limit its number to 825 flights a day in July and 850 in August, down from 900 in previous years. That as Gatwick says staff shortages played no role in the death of a disabled passenger as they were leaving a plane. It says the incident occurred while airport staff were helping disembark 3 passengers with restricted mobility. A formal investigation into the death is underway. And parts of the UK today could reach up to 34 degrees as the Met Office issues a level 3 heat health alert for London, the east of England and the southeast. Level 3 alerts are issued to help healthcare services prepare for possible increases in demand due to the temperature rises. TV online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.233 to the dollar. The pound is 1.171 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,502.01 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News, investments that matter.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
A very good morning, everybody. It's about to go 10:38. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christie's. I'm right here on GB News, live as ever on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, we've got loads to get stuck into throughout the remainder of this hour. We're going to be talking about weeds. That's right, yes, OK. It's too early in the morning to talk about the other stuff. As a council, you think you can guess which one? That's right, it's run by the Greens, has banned people from using weed killer and instead basically wants to rewild the living heck out of the place. It is apparently, though, going to give people trowels so that they can maybe dig their own weeds out. The good thing, though, about that particular council in Brighton and Hove is that they so very rarely take the bins out that you can't actually see the weeds. But we're also going to do some ghost hunting. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday night, after all. Well, it's about to be anyway. It's Friday morning now. I'm going to be doing a Friday night show later as well, but it is Friday, and we're going to be doing a bit of ghost hunting as well, which I quite enjoy. Why, you may say? Well, I got sent through an absolutely mad press release the other day, as often happens in my inbox. People send through all sorts, right, they want you to talk about. And someone said, Patrick, we've done a survey, and more people believe in ghosts than believe in Her Majesty's government's telling of the truth, OK? So I thought, well, I don't really want to buy into that. But it was a vehicle, a vessel, if you will, for me to get stuck into ghost hunting, which I think is absolutely hilarious and quite fascinating. So we're going to be doing that shortly. But first, I'm going to go into our inbox, GBViews at gbnews.uk. A lot of you getting in touch, really, about what happened right at the start of the show. Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, he was stood up giving a keynote speech, which was, as I'm sure you can all agree, riveting, about the Met Police. And he's basically accused them of institutional racism, sexism, misogyny, etc. I just wondered how you felt about that, really, because there's a difference, isn't there, I think, between having a lack of faith in the police in terms of they're not that good at maybe doing their job. So when you call them for a burglary or something like that, you don't get a quick response. That's one thing, OK? But actually in thinking that they're all, or there's a real culture, really, of misogyny or hatred of minorities in the police there, I'm not sure about it. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure Sadiq Khan is doing more harm than good here, really, because I think if I was watching that now and I was in a quotes-unquote marginalised community and I was prone to maybe disliking the police anyway because I see rather a lot of them on my estate, for example, I think I might see that as fair game now to continue hating them. But we're going to get that throughout the show. Lots of you getting in touch. Whenever I hear accusations, my interest vanishes. That's from Steve. I think it's all blown out of proportion. That is Steve's view, who also, Steve, has let me know that he's a Manchester United fan, which is absolutely top drawer. Anyway, right, now, here's a spooky thing. That's right. A recent poll is suggesting that people believe in ghosts and ghouls more than they believe in Boris Johnson. Well, it's not great for Boris, is it? But joining me right now is Russ, co-founder of the Essex Ghost Hunters. That's right. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, I'm not going to get stuck into the political stuff. This really is all about ghosts. So, do they exist?
100%. Absolutely 100%.
And you've seen one with your own eyes, have you?
Yeah, I've been working in the field for over 25 years now, so I've seen a lot that I can't explain.
Okay, all right, good. I mean, I've seen a lot I can't explain, but normally around Soho. So talk me through how you go about hunting for ghosts, then, Russ.
Well, I'm a psychic medium. I've been able to talk to spirit and connect with the spiritual energies for the last sort of 15 to 20 years of my life. So it's nothing really new to me, but for the general public and things like that, there's so many things that you can use from sort of old devices like divination tools, dowsing rods, pendulums, and everything like that. Even as much as like the spirit board, obviously known as the Ouija board within our field. Anything like that really has got a real sense of communication with spirit.
Your communication's been? Have you ever had any shocking stuff?
Yes, I am over in Wales. We've had some really good stuff like cardboard boxes and wine bottles being thrown off the shelves towards us for no apparent reason. I couldn't explain it. I've tried to debunk it, and that's what my job is, to try and debunk any evidence that we get come forward. But this, I just couldn't explain. I really couldn't explain this one at all.
Ever talk to you?
Pardon? I missed you there.
It's ironic. Do they ever talk to you?
What, spirit?
Yeah.
Yes, ghosts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What kind of things do they say?
I actually bought my last car on the advice of spirit. I walked through the car sales room. I didn't know which one to buy, and one of my long lost relatives said, Russ, that one is the one that you want to go for, and that's the one I bought.
What car is it?
It's a Ford Ranger.
Okay, all right, fair enough, good stuff. Yes, I mean, if they told you to buy a Skoda, then you'd have to question what their intentions were. But okay, good. So basically, if people want to, kind of. Oh, actually, can I ask you this? Are Ouija boards dangerous? Because I wanted to do one in the office, and everyone said, "I've just had it in my ear. Careful with this. You can talk about Ouija boards without." So if I did a Ouija board in the office right now, is there a chance that I might invoke some kind of deadly spirit?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. Because your intention is quite clear. Your intention is to when you sort of use them sort of tools, intention is one of the main things. So if your intention is to call the devil, you're going to, there's a good chance you'll call a negative energy. But if your intention is to speak to your loved ones, then your intention is to speak to your loved ones. So your intentions and your mindset play an important role in that.
So why can't everyone access the kind of higher precipice, really? And what do you think it is? Is it people who are, not quite dead? Or where are they? In a different zone?
I don't believe there is any sort of in-between. I do believe we're either dead and alive. I don't see that we're stuck. I'm not a lover of this belief that the ones that haunt this place are ones that are trapped in this world, and I don't believe that. I believe they can come back and choose if they want to come back or not.
And is that what visions are? Like, when people see a ghost walking across, or a picture of a girl in a shroud in a window in a castle or something, that's them coming back to say hello, is it?
Or residual energy that can hold between the walls of a place or anything like that. Yes, very much so.
Can I ask you, well, I mean, I was asking serious questions then, it's just an interesting topic, but I do a thing on Friday nights, Friday Night Feast, 7 till 9 p.m, tune in everybody, but I do a thing called Challenge Christie's, okay, so this week, for example, I did a loop the loop in an aeroplane, which you're going to see later, but can I come ghost hunting with you?
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, well, my producer's got your details. Let's get spooky, OK? Very good. I'm looking forward to this. Russ Old, thank you very, very much, co-founder of the Essex Ghost Hunters there, who was, of course, talking about the fact that, well, initially it came through one of the maddest press releases I've ever had, that more people believe in ghosts than Boris Johnson, but I just thought, let's use that to talk about ghosts. Anyway, right, moving away from that now. A bit more seriousness, of course. During the pandemic, several big industries made huge financial gains, and among them, the container shipping industry, which recorded its highest ever profit. With the rise in online shipping, businesses have been booming and demand that its services continues to grow. Well, our East of England reporter Ed Crawford has more for us.
On the waters beyond Britain's coastline, there is a storm on the horizon.
When the world descended into lockdowns in 2020, millions of people stuck at home began ordering unprecedented amounts of products online. Retailers posted record profits, with Amazon's revenue raising by 38% to more than £318 billion. The surge in online spending created a gold rush in the cargo shipping industry, with container fleets keen to facilitate this burgeoning trend. Simon Heaney, who works for Drury Shipping Consultancy, has witnessed this maritime economic boom firsthand.
The latest earnings season that just went by for the first quarter, carriers were able to post operating margins of approximately 60%. Prior to this, they would have been happy with 3%, frankly, and often they made a small loss. So it's night and day in terms of what's happened. So container lines absolutely are the winners in terms of this pandemic.
The rising consumer demand led to higher prices, with producers vying to get stock on board any vessel going. Some exporters' attitude was get it to Europe no matter what, and as a result the prices more than tripled within a year, leaving the consumers with higher costs. Others in the industry remember the exponential rise in prices.
If we look at pre-COVID levels to the peak, which was September, October 2021, rates increased for a standard 40-foot container, which is the kind of container that you'll see on the back of trucks going up and down the motorway, increased from just shy of $2,000 to move that from Asia to Europe to $19,000 to the UK. And so that's almost a tenfold increase in that time.
As well as increased demand driving the prices higher, the shipping industry had to contend with global issues like never before. The war in Ukraine, sanctions on Russia, and a zero-COVID policy in China has led to unforeseen disruptions in the supply chain. Shanghai has some of the largest ports in the world, so when the Chinese economic machine ground to a halt, the economic effects were instant. The existing global backlog of goods increased, and the price for consumers continued to grow as demand outstripped supply. Shipping rates had gradually decreased while Shanghai was in lockdown, but now China is opening up and shipping analysts say on-board container availability will diminish, and once again the global supply chains will be pushed to the limit. It seems no one can predict which way the tide will turn, but with the shipping rates likely to continue rising, this will lead to higher prices trickling down to the consumer. Ed Crawford, GB News.
Thank you very much, Ed. Now, are you bothered about weeds? This is a serious question. If you live in a seaside city of Brighton, you need to be really serious about them. That's because Brighton and Hove's Green Council, appropriately named, has decided that weed killer should be banned and not used to kill off the overgrown brush on the city's pavements. And guess what? It's blamed Brexit for the proliferation of weeds by saying that foreign seasonal workers who used to cut them down are now not able to do the job. And to stem the increase of unwanted shrubbery, the council says that any residents who want to clear the weeds themselves from public paths and roadways will be given advice and tools to do the job themselves. So there you have it. Too much weed in Brighton. Who would have thought that? Joining me now is Conservative councillor and Brighton and Hove City Council, Samir Baheen. Thank you very much, Samir. I mean, what's going on? Are the residents happy with this? I thought they already weren't getting their bins taken out, and now they've got weeds as well.
Yeah, so our residents, good morning, first of all. Our residents are, as you can imagine, absolutely furious about what's happening. And you know, it's we judge these things by the messages coming into our inbox. You know, our inbox. And our residents are telling us that they're not happy about this. I think some language is actually stronger than that. Some are absolutely furious that this hasn't, you know, it's not been taken seriously, I think.
Well, it clearly isn't been taken seriously, but is there actually an excuse for it? They're blaming Brexit. They're saying that, oh, you know, we used to have seasonal workers who used to come round and chop up their weeds, but now, of course, there's no way that they could possibly get anyone else to do it.
No, I mean, there's two things. I get the point about the seasonal workers, but I think, you know, it's one of those things where, as a local authority, presumably you plan for these things and you know exactly when your wheat season is going to start. So, you know, with months in advance, you begin to look for the labor that you need in order to cut the weeds. What is absolutely clear this year is that this hasn't happened at all. You know, the council is saying currently they're in the process of recruiting, but actually this sort of thing should have happened back in January. You know, it can't happen bang in the middle of the season. The other, I think, which is more critical, is that the council communicated separately to councillors that there is a plan for not cutting verges and letting rewilding take hold in some parts of the city, and this particular area is one of those. And this is relying on data which is 3 or 4 years old. So again, that's something we've also questioned.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a bad look for Brighton and Hove, isn't it? If I was there as a tourist, it's a lovely part of the world. If I was there as a tourist now and I was driving through Brighton and Hove and I'd look around and think, gosh, this all looks a bit scruffy. But do the Greens not mind that because they tend to look a bit scruffy themselves anyway?
Well, I tell you what, it depends which part of the city you look at. Now, clearly, tourists coming into the city, coming out of the station and walking down to the beach, they will have one view of the city. They may not see weeds of this nature as they go down this route, but actually, it's the residents who live in the suburbs that are beginning to feel the impact of this, and they're beginning to feel it really, really strongly, probably much more than they have done in the last couple of years. I mean, you've got the picture there of the bus stop. This is a bus stop, for God's sake. You can't have a bench and a bus stop which are absolutely not accessible for anyone coming off of one of our buses in the suburbs. And that's one of the things that really we're absolutely furious about, as are our residents who live near that bus stop.
Absolutely. And let's say I was in a wheelchair and I needed to get off that bus and then I'm confronted by a load of weeds. It'd be like hacking through the Amazon rainforest. The elderly, for example, just the generally disabled, I suppose you could say. Really, anyone. I mean, it's an inconvenience. But Steve's been in touch. GBViews at gbnews.uk. He says, so if Brighton stop cutting back the weeds, which I believe will eventually mean that paving slabs will lift, and it could cause structural damage to pavements and to walls, and it becomes a bigger problem in the long run, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, so, and actually that's the other side of this problem. So obviously one of the problems is weeds kind of growing in and around paving tiles. The other one is the verges, particularly like the ones that you've just shown, that aren't being cut at all. And I think these are two separate problems. So one of them is clearly people slipping on weeds or grass on the paving tiles as they walk on pavements. The other one, as you've highlighted, is people coming off a bus in a wheelchair, crutches, in a buggy, and not being able to kind of, cross safely onto the pavement. I think they're two separate, but they're very much two interrelated problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Simon, thank you very much. I'd love to get you back on the show. I don't think I've spoken to you before, but it's been fantastic. So Simon Baheen there, of course, of Brighton and Hove City Council, Conservative councillor at that particular council. Madness, that, isn't it? I can't believe that that's taking place. I bet their council tax hasn't gone down, by the way. Anyway, and now, let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you might have missed. Imagine bringing your car to get a nice professional clean, mine needs one, only to come back and see it look like this. Well, if you are basically listening on radio, that car has been absolutely mullered from pillar to post outside it. It looks like it's been through a crusher. Well, obviously I won't be going here in a hurry. The customer dropped off his classic Mercedes and asked for a, quote, super valet. But the car wash employee had other ideas. He took the car for a 90-minute spin from his workplace in Cheshire to his home in Manchester. He hadn't passed a driving test and he crashed it 5 miles away from where the car was due to be returned. Well, despite the smash, the two are still said to be on, quote, good terms, being a regular customer at the car wash. I tell you what, it's a lot more forgiving than I would be, but there we go. Now, a lot of you might like this one, or probably not, I suppose, actually. But research suggests that having one lager a day can boost good bacteria in your gut. Well, that's good to know, but do we ever really just stick to one? So this study from Portugal suggests that it can reduce the risk of heart disease and type 2 diabetes, which I think is pretty good, to be honest with you. I mean, that's any excuse to go to the pub. They only looked at lager, but all types of beer are expected to have the same effect on microbiomes. So go out whenever you like, basically, but obviously do it responsibly. However, obviously, heavy drinking is not good for your health, and as I would know, of course, thank you very much for whoever put that in the auto cue, but suggesting non-alcoholic beer can have the same health benefits too. There we go. Right, now, moving on. Animal welfare workers rescued 47 cats from a vehicle parked in sweltering heat. Goodness me. The cats have been living in the vehicle with their owner, who'd recently become homeless but did not want to leave the animals behind. 47 cats. Gosh, that's a window into the future, isn't it? They were found in the vehicle while it was parked in an interstate in the US state of Minnesota. But despite the heat, most of the animals, which range in age from less than a year to more than 12 years old, had only minor medical issues. Can you imagine how bad that van smells? Yeah? Oh, grief. Anyway, An expert has argued that giving care home residents a little bit more time to themselves will help essentially with anxiety and depression. You can even give them, and this is it, not just time to themselves, magic mushrooms. That's right. So basically, what they want to do is give magic mushrooms to old people, and apparently it's been scientifically linked to reducing feelings of anxiety and depression and a greater sense of well-being in a 6-month trial in the US. I mean, hey, why not, I suppose? I tell you what, if I was in a care home staring out of the looking window for 20 hours a day, hit me with them mushrooms, people. Right, now, a little reminder that every Wednesday we hand our show over to you. It's your show full of your ideas and what you want us to talk about, what you think are the most important stories. Of course, we are the People's Channel. You are the people. Get in touch. Please tell us what subjects you think need covering, questions that you want answering, and who we should be talking to. We have loads of emails coming in already. It's tothepoint@gbnews.uk. That's tothepoint@gbnews.uk. Keep all those thoughts coming in to us as well. We'll be back with more of today's top stories. Plenty of your views after this very short break.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather update. Today is all about the heat in the south, but it's not hot and sunny everywhere. We have cloud and rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland this morning from this weather front. But this area of high pressure has been dominating of late. It's edging its way eastwards, which is allowing even hotter air to arrive across parts of England and Wales. That's why temperatures will peak today in the low 30s. But that weather front further north is making for a damp start. The rain should ebb away, actually, from much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, turning brighter here, but we will see some of that rain pushing into parts of northern England, clouding over a little bit across Lancashire for sure. But further south and east, most of England and Wales, dry, hot and sunny. 33, 34 in the London area up towards East Anglia. It will be cooler elsewhere, certainly some coasts will be cooler, but many places well above average. Much cooler air though for Scotland and Northern Ireland behind this weather front, which will continue to dribble southwards overnight, providing a little bit of rain for a time over northern England and maybe Wales. 1 or 2 showers in the far northwest where it'll be quite breezy. A cool, comfortable night across the north, but another very warm one further south, particularly so across the southeast. How does the weekend shape up? Well, it's a bit of a mixed picture because we'll hold on to the very warm conditions across the southeast, but for much of the Midlands, Wales, cloudy in this zone with the likelihood of some rain, which could be on the heavy side as well, perhaps also affecting southwest England during the afternoon. Further north, well, it's on the cool side, certainly compared to of late, but actually quite a pleasant day for Scotland and Northern Ireland, bright and breezy with some sunny spells. The rain could turn quite heavy as we go through the day. Some brighter colours there over parts of the Midlands, Wales and northern England. The southeast and East Anglia staying dry until the evening when there is the risk of some heavy thundery showers, but they'll be somewhat hit and miss. By Sunday, there's still a chance of some showers, but mostly across the south, turning drier through next week, but also quite a bit cooler.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News. I'm
Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
A very good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, on your TV, radio and online. I am with you all the way through until midday, and this show, as ever, is jam-packed with all of today's biggest stories, lots of discussion, expert guests, my opinions, yours as well. Make sure you get in touch with your views as usual. GBviews at gbnews.uk. I'll be going to those throughout the show, but first it's time for your latest headlines.
Good morning, it's 1 minute past 11. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Gatwick Airport says staff shortages played no role in the death of a disabled passenger as they were leaving a plane. It says the incident occurred while airport staff were helping disembark 3 passengers with restricted mobility. EasyJet confirmed the death in a statement yesterday. The man reportedly fell down an escalator after getting off the plane without a helper. A formal investigation is underway. Meanwhile, London Gatwick's are cutting the number of daily flights this summer to help tackle issues with staffing. The airport will limit its number to 825 flights a day in July and 850 in August. That's down from 900 in previous years. Gatwick said the decision was taken to help passengers experience a more reliable and better standard of service. It added that the vast majority of scheduled flights will run as normal. And more travel disruption this summer expected as hundreds of railway workers at Southeastern will vote on whether to strike as disputes over pay and jobs continue. The ballot opens next week and closes on the 11th of July, which could see strikes start from July the 25th, increasing threats of summer travel chaos. That is, half of rail lines close on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday of next week because of an RMT union strike. The union is also staging a 24-hour walkout with Unite on the London Underground on Tuesday. Home Secretary Priti Patel has signed an order to extradite Julian Assange to the US, where he'll face charges of espionage. The WikiLeaks founder has 14 days to appeal the decision. Mr. Assange is wanted by the American authorities over documents leaked in 2010 and 2011. The Home Office said the UK courts have found extradition is compatible with his human rights, including his right to a fair trial. WikiLeaks has called it a dark day for press freedom and British democracy. The Chancellor has suggested there'll be no personal tax cuts until rising prices are brought under control. In a letter to the Bank of England's Governor, Rishi Sunak said fiscal policy must remain responsible and not exacerbate inflation. The bank increased interest rates to 1.25% yesterday, the 5th rise in a row, and predicted inflation will top 11% in the autumn. Business and finance commentator Michael Wilson thinks prices are spiralling.
These prices are getting to a stage now where the general public will be saying, do you know what, I don't think actually we need to make that journey anymore. That is what economists call demand destruction. In other words, when people say enough's enough, I'm not going to spend any more. I really will cut back on food. I really will cut back on fuel. I think that the personal consumers, and we are in a consumer society, should be asking themselves some very serious questions about where they're spending money and whether they need to.
And some breaking news just in. The EU Commission has proposed Ukraine becomes an EU candidate. Meanwhile, a summit's being held in London to discuss how British companies can help rebuild key infrastructure in Ukraine once the war is over. Ukrainian delegates will meet with British businesses and the International Trade Secretary Anne-Marie Trevelyan. The head of the UK's armed forces, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, says strategically Russia has lost the war.
The Ukrainian people, they've already defeated the original Russian plans, which were to take the cities inside 30 days and in about 6 weeks take most of the country. So President Putin has used about 25% of his army's power to gain a tiny amount of territory.
Now, parts of the UK today could reach up to 34 degrees as the Met Office issues a level 3 heat health alert for London, the east of England and the southeast. Level 3 alerts are issued to help healthcare services prepare for possible increases in demand due to the heat. Weather expert Phil Morris says it's a very hot day, hot Friday in England and Wales, not typical of British weather, but be warned, the rain's on its way.
Got a cold front coming down on tomorrow, Saturday. That's going to engage the cold, the hot air. Now, Scotland and Northern Ireland today are not really going to enjoy this heat wave or endure it, depending on your point of view. Cooler air is coming down, and as this cold front comes down tonight, it'll meet this warmer air, hot air, and create some heavy showers tomorrow.
This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens now, though. Let's return to Patrick with To The Point.
Very good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, on your TV, radio and online. I've got a great show lined up for you in this final hour, so let's get at it, shall we? A new poll reveals that the majority of Brits want trans women like cyclist Emily Bridges banned from female sports. So, why does it still feel like a controversial opinion to have? I'll be chatting to transgender woman and human rights activist, the wonderful Miranda Yardy, about the issue of having men compete with women later. Meanwhile, everyone in the south is freaking out about this Spanish heat wave that's come over the channel, raising temperatures to over 30 degrees in parts of the country. But what about the weather up in the north? We'll cross to a Scottish pub to see whether they're putting the umbrellas up for a very different, more wintry reason later on. And finally, I'll catch up with my good friend Nathan Dunn, the brave man walking barefoot across the country in a record-breaking walk in the name of mental health. I actually went and walked with him last week. We went and, did a bit of barefoot walking through the woods. In case you don't know, Nathan Dunn is raising money, as indeed I am, for the charity Mind, a mental health charity. And, we're really trying to just raise awareness, really, and raise a bit of cash. And because I've been doing the late night shows, I've had a chance to do much fundraising in the week this week with you, but we'd like to hit it hard today if we can, people. I'm just going to say that link. It's justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. It's a very moving experience, I must say, that I had with Nathan Dunn. We're going to be playing it out in full later on my Friday night show, Friday Night Feast, 7 until 9 p.m. We'll have a bit of it for you here, but it's just to try and get people talking about their mental health. It's justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. I've got all of that coming up and much, much more across the programme. You can get in touch, as always, as well. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Yes, but first, let's discuss the situation in Ukraine. It's been about 3 months and 2 weeks since the Russian invasion of Ukraine actually began, and that's a few months longer than Russia thought the invasion would actually take, having failed to achieve their objective of a swift takeover. And now the UK's head of the army has said that the Russians have already strategically lost the war. So speaking from Edinburgh Castle, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin said the invasion was a dreadful mistake for the now diminished power.
This is a dreadful mistake by Russia. Russia will never take control of Ukraine. Russia has strategically lost already. NATO is stronger. Finland and Sweden are looking to join. If you look at the Ukrainian people, they've already defeated the original Russian plans, which were to take the cities inside 30 days and in about 6 weeks take most of the country. That's all stopped.
And of course, we've just heard that the EU are going to formally propose Ukraine as a candidate for membership. Wow, former head of the British Army, Lord Richard Dannett, joins me now for a reaction. Thank you very much, Lord Richard. Pleasure to have you on the show. First things first, then, that kind of bit of new news, as it were, that's just dropped, I suppose, about Ukraine potentially being put forward for, well, who's going to be put forward for EU candidacy. Is that going to be like red rag to a bull for Putin? Because my concern is that he thinks, right, well, unless I blitz this now and take it all now, I'm not going to be able to once they become an EU member.
Well, Patrick, good morning. I mean, I think this breaking news this morning is interesting. And I think perfectly reasonably, the European Union is reaching out to Ukraine and offering it candidate status. This is, of course, somewhat different to Ukraine becoming a member of NATO. You mentioned red rag to a bull. That would be a very red rag to a very angry bull. But I think EU candidate status, leading probably to EU membership at some stage in the future, is perfectly reasonable. I think even Russia would see it's perfectly reasonable. If Russia's overall strategic objective had been to take over Ukraine, to draw Ukraine into the greater Russian sphere, Admiral Radikin is right. Russia has failed as far as that is concerned. But clearly that is not going to happen. We're all supporting Ukraine's right to be a sovereign, independent country. And that sovereign, independent country can, if invited by the European Union to become a member, perfectly reasonably ask to join and to join. So I think that's something for the future and something quite encouraging and potentially exciting for Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely. And in terms of, let's just fast forward a little bit and say Ukraine does become an EU member and Putin continues his surge, then he's attacked an EU member state. Does that mean World War III?
No, it's a different issue. That's the distinction I was drawing moments or two ago. Had Ukraine become, sometime in the past, a member of NATO, then the attack that Russia has mounted on Ukraine would have violated Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, and an attack on Ukraine would have been treated as an attack on all the other members. Now, that is not the case with the European Union. The European Union is a political union, it's an economic union, it's very much not a defence union, certainly as things stand at the present moment. So there is a distinction between potential EU membership and potential NATO membership, the latter being ruled out.
Yeah, absolutely. I did understand that distinction. I was just wondering whether or not kind of morally and politically, really, once an EU member state's been attacked, but I suppose hopefully we don't have to figure that one out. And just in terms of Russia's strategic failures then, obviously things haven't gone to plan for Putin particularly. Where are we up to? What's the current state of play over there then? Because I was concerned that it all felt like it's gone a bit quiet.
Well, it's only gone quiet because there's not a huge amount of movement going on at the present moment. As we all know, the original plan to strike down Belarus to capture Kyiv, regime change in Kyiv hasn't happened. The Russians reset their strategic objective. And there were two elements to that, one of which they have achieved, which is to link up Crimea through Melitopol, through Mariupol, into Russia proper, and they've achieved that. Their second objective is to get control of the two Donbass provinces, Donetsk and Luhansk. And they are significantly on their way to achieving that. The battle is raging around Severodonetsk at the present moment. About 3,000 Ukrainian defenders still defending Severodonetsk. It's gritty fighting. Now, because it's urban fighting now, the Russians have lost their advantage of long-range artillery strikes. When they're trying to move forward house by house, street by street, they're locked in at close range with the Ukrainian defenders. This, of course, causes huge casualties, actually, to both sides, but it does mean that the Russians' reliance on excessive amounts of artillery is reduced at the present moment. What will happen? I'm afraid that the meat grinder mass of the Russian army will probably result over time in the Russians effectively getting control of Donetsk and Luhansk provinces. But they will, by that stage, pretty much have shot their bolt. They will be exhausted militarily. The Ukrainians will be pretty exhausted too. But actually, it's at that point that this war is going to go into something of a deep freeze, with the Russians controlling that passage from Crimea through the Donbass and controlling the two Donbass provinces, in all probability. So Russia won't have won, but Ukraine won't have lost. And Ukraine will go on enjoying the support of Western countries, both the EU in terms of the politics we were talking about and the trade we were talking about, but also in terms of countries like the United States and the UK piling lots of weapons and support into Ukraine to bolster its armed forces so it can go on resisting the Russian aggression.
Yeah, I do wonder whether or not the kind of piecemeal approach to giving them weapons is, well, obviously it has helped, but is it what they would have wanted? Because I can't help but feel as though we saw those kind of rather, in my opinion, quite toe-curling images of Emmanuel Macron trying to hug quite a nonplussed-looking Zelensky. But with that, do you think Zelensky would have rather that France had sent more weapons as opposed to saying that they can have EU candidacy?
Well, undoubtedly, what they need now is more weapons. And top marks to countries like the United States for piling in huge amounts of weapons. I think also we can give credit to our own government because from a fairly limited stock, we are actually giving Ukraine really quite a lot of the weaponry available to ourselves. And other countries are doing the same. I think some European countries, and I'll be a little ambiguous here, are seeing it in their interest not to be too tough on Russia because they've got issues of energy supply for themselves and are speaking with a little bit of a forked tongue. And it was interesting to see some of the body language in Kyiv yesterday.
Lord Richard Dannett, thank you very much, former head of the British Army. Really great insight, that much appreciated as well. Look, we're just going to go over now because there is actually a press conference taking place in the EU, I believe, as it currently stands, on this issue. So let's just throw ourselves over to that, shall we? The fight against corruption. And it appears to be taking place. They're talking about Ukraine becoming an EU candidate. There we go. And, of course, it comes after various EU leaders, including, of course, Emmanuel Macron, went to visit Zelensky yesterday, a couple of days ago, I should say, and essentially, yes, offered up this EU candidacy, which I'm sure he will appreciate, but one may argue that he would also appreciate weapons a little bit more. We'll get those views coming in, though. GB Views at GBNews.uk. Lots of those views are coming in right now. Great views, exactly what people want to see sorted straight away. This is from Mike, who obviously we've spoken about what was going on in the channel as well. Of course we have. He's calling for our very own British Bill of Rights. Mike does not agree with the fact that we are basically part of the ECHR, and that's not an uncommon view. Lana's not particularly optimistic about what's going to go on in Ukraine, and I'm not sure many of us are. As you just heard there from the former head of the British Army, it's a slow war of attrition now, and with the sheer weight and mass of troops that Vladimir Putin has, you can't help but feel that despite the massive casualties, eventually he may well get his way to an extent. There's loads of that coming your way and much, much more. Keep those views coming in. We do love to hear from you, but today's controversy concerns trans women in sport. So transgender cyclist Emily Bridges caused a little bit of a stir this week after denying claims that she has any advantage over biological women when competing in female sports. This despite obviously being born a man. But despite her pleas to continue competing in women's cycling, the majority of Brits seem to disagree with her. So a new poll from the think tank More in Common says that more than half of Brits think transgender athletes should be banned from competing in female sports as they have a physical advantage over their female competitors. So what is more unfair in this situation? Being a woman and having to compete with someone who was born biologically male, a man, or being a transgender woman, man, who is barred from competing in the sport category that you identify with? Here to help me answer this question is human rights activist Miranda Yardley. Thank you very much, Miranda. Always an absolute delight to have you on the show. So, is it a shock to you that the vast majority of the British public, according to this survey anyway, think that it's wrong for a trans woman to compete in women's sports?
Well, I'd like to bring you up on a point of correction. I'd like to say that, like all of those who currently are demanding to be called transgender women, that just like all of those people who are demanding to be called that, I am, in fact, and immutably, a bloke. And I think that we have to look upon these demands of these men who identify as women, I mean, seriously, to be included in women's sport. I think we need to look at it in exactly that context. I don't think that we can pretend that they are a subset of women, because the advantage that they have through being men, through going through a male puberty, heck, even if you don't go, even if you didn't go through a male puberty, you would generally have a longer and a stronger bone structure. So, for example, there is a condition for that XY males would have who are androgen insensitive. They still tend to be taller and have longer, but I believe less dense bones. So basically, what this is doing, this is pitching men against women in competitive sport. See also contact sport, and then demanding that the rest of us pretend that this is in some way fair. It's not fair. There was two female British athletes, two actually female, not pretend female like Emily Bridges, went to went to Holyrood yesterday to try to speak with the Scottish government, who were trying to get who were talking about their changes to gender recognition and trying to get the Scottish government to engage with them on matters to do with the effect of this upon women's sport and women's rights generally, and they were completely ignored by the SNP. The SNP seem to be intent upon pushing these in inverted commas reforms through, even though they are ever so clearly very one-sided and very biased.
No, exactly. And can I just ask, do you get hate from some elements of the trans community for your views? Because you opened up there very bluntly, really, which is, say you are, in your words, you're a bloke, right? Do you get a pushback?
Oh gosh, yeah. They've even tried to have me prosecuted.
For what?
I was a couple of years. I must tell you about this sometime. A couple of years ago, I was pulled up for transphobic hate crime. But this is, and I had to go in front of a magistrate. But this is getting off the point. What we're being asked to do is we're being asked to dilute female participation in female sport by accepting that men can be a part of that sport, but we've got to pretend that they're not actually men, that they're women. If you saw the interview with Emily Bridges, he was adamant that he was female. He's not female, he's male. Yeah. He needs to own that.
Yeah, look, I'm inclined to agree with you. And there's numerous cases of this as well. Kent women's cricket, Maxine Blythen, who was born male, won their Women's Cricketer of the Year award. And I think there was obviously some concern about that. The cycling, as you've mentioned there, we had Laurel Hubbard in the weightlifting. I mean, I must say that the thing that for me that did it with Laurel Hubbard was there's all this furore about them turning up and everything. And actually, I think it would have kicked off more. But from what I could gather, they turned up quite badly out of shape, and so didn't bother the leaderboard, right? So they kind of got away with it, right? But it was, I thought there would have been a lot more fuss if Laurel Hubbard had won gold, for example, at the Olympics there. But you yourself have played a bit of sport in the past, haven't you? I seem to remember you saying that you played for the male team. Is that right? We've spoken about this in the past.
Yeah. I joined King's Cross Steelers, and I did some training with them, which was really, really good. And I'd love to be able to do it again. And in my real life, has managed to get in the way of everything. But yeah, I played rugby with a male team, and I can assure you that playing rugby, playing rugby with men is pretty brutal. I find it utterly reckless that that a lot of the lobbying that was happening with rugby was this idea of getting men to be called women so that they could play against women. It's completely unfair. Men are so much bigger. You are going to get women who are rugby players who are going to be of the build that would be something like a prop forward, but. You compare it to a bloke. It's a different matter completely. The power difference and the leverage just from the size of the bones is quite extraordinary.
No, it is. Miranda, thank you so much. Can I just ask Miranda as well? I believe your cat made an appearance there for a second. Well, what's the cat called?
Hattie.
Hattie the catty. Good stuff. Lovely stuff. OK, Miranda, thank you so much. I'll have to talk to you again very soon. Miranda Yardley there, OK, human rights activist there. Wow, well, interesting stuff. And I think quite refreshing, actually, to hear that from Miranda. It's always great to have Miranda on the show. Well, after the break, our North East of England reporter Rachel Sweeney will tell us how a butcher and brewer in Northumberland are helping each other out amid the cost of living crisis. Two of my favourite things there, meat and beer. That's after the weather.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather update. Today is all about the heat in the south, but it's not hot and sunny everywhere. We have cloud and rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland this morning from this weather front. But this area of high pressure has been dominating of late. It's edging its way eastwards, which is allowing even hotter air to arrive across parts of England and Wales. That's why temperatures will peak today in the low 30s. But that weather front further north is making for a damp start. The rain should ebb away, actually, from much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, turning brighter here. But we will see some of that rain pushing into parts of northern England, clouding over a little bit across Lancashire for sure. But further south and east, most of England and Wales Dry, hot and sunny. 33, 34 in the London area up towards East Anglia. It will be cooler elsewhere. Certainly some coasts will be cooler, but many places well above average. Much cooler air, though, for Scotland and Northern Ireland behind this weather front, which will continue to dribble southwards overnight, providing a little bit of rain for a time over northern England and maybe Wales. 1 or 2 showers in the far northwest where it'll be quite breezy, a cool, comfortable night across the north, but another very warm one further south, particularly so across the southeast. How does the weekend shape up? Well, it's a bit of a mixed picture because we'll hold on to the very warm conditions across the southeast, but for much of the Midlands, Wales, cloudy in this zone with the likelihood of some rain, which could be on the heavy side as well, perhaps also affecting southwest England during the afternoon. Further north, well, it's on the cool side, certainly compared to of late, but actually quite a pleasant day for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Bright and breezy with some sunny spells. The rain could turn quite heavy as we go through the day. Some brighter colours there over parts of the Midlands, Wales and northern England. The southeast and East Anglia staying dry until the evening when there is the risk of some heavy thundery showers, but they'll be somewhat hit and miss. By Sunday, there's still a chance of some showers, but mostly across the south, turning drier through next week, but also quite a bit cooler.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News. Morning, everyone. It's just gone 11:29. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, right here on GB News, live on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, we're going to go into the terrifying world of my inbox, gbviews@gbnews.uk. Lots of reaction to our discussion there about the fact that a poll has just come out to reveal that more than half of you, about 57% of the British public, think that trans women should not be, trans men, trans women, minefield anyway, should not be competing in women's sport. People who were born men, who are now, quote unquote, a woman. should not be competing in men's sport. Why do these people want to infringe on women's competitions? This is from Tom. What are their rights to compete on a level and honest playing field? Well, they can't really, can they, in a lot of senses, I suppose. Yes, the sooner these men, yes, men, this is Mike's view, are banned from women's athletics, the better. He says it's out-and-out cheating, and these are men no matter how much surgery they have had. A lot of people would agree with you, although I tell you what, it's become clear now that more and more children, and they are children, are going to be put on life-changing, pretty much irreversible medication from conceivably a very, very young age, actually, to help aid with transition. How do you feel about that? We're going to be getting stuck into that as well throughout my show later on this evening. And yes, a lot of you as well have been getting in touch saying, where's Nathan Dunn? We want to see Nathan Dunn, the barefoot walker, the man who's walking from John O'Groats to Land's End barefoot, setting a world record. Well, you should be very, very lucky, because I actually went to walk with him through some forests near Wales, and that was last week. We recorded it all. We're going to play a bit of it out a little bit later on in the show and have a chat with Nathan as well, but we're playing the full clip out later on, Friday Night Feast, 7 until 9 p.m. And just as a heads up, it is quite moving stuff, really. Nathan has obviously had some quite severe mental health issues in the past, but we just have an open and honest conversation, because the whole point of this was trying to get, well, specifically men, really, but I mean anyone, but specifically men, to talk about their mental health, because that's a major issue. Every single day, 12 men take their own lives, and it's the biggest suicide, is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45, which is astonishing, really, when you think about all the other things out there that could kill you, frankly. And we have got a Just Giving page up at the minute. And we're really going to be hammering this Just Giving page today, later on in this show, and tonight on my later show, and then throughout all of next week, because Nathan's only got about 2 or 3 more weeks left now until he completes his walk. We've managed to raise about 20-odd, well, you have managed to raise about 20-odd thousand pounds, which is fantastic. So thank you very much. Give yourselves a big round of applause. But we're going to hit 50 grand if we can, people. So let's try and get to that. It's justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's, and you'll be hearing from Nathan very, very shortly. Anyway, after the break, we cover the heat wave hitting the UK, well, parts of it anyway. We look into what's coming up north as well as down in the boiling south. Good news for Nathan, he can get his top off as well. Anyway, that's all after the news.
It's 11:32. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The President of the EU Commission has proposed Ukraine becomes a candidate for EU membership. In her statement, Ursula von der Leyen, wearing the colours of the Ukraine flag, said this was on the understanding the country carry out a number of reforms.
Yes, Ukraine deserves European perspective. Yes, Ukraine should be welcomed as a candidate country. This is on the understanding that good work has been done, but important work also remains to be done. The entire process is merits-based. So it goes by the book, and therefore progress depends entirely on Ukraine. It is Ukraine that has it in their hands, and what could be better to shape your own future.
And staying with Ukraine, the European broadcasting unions decided the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest, which Ukraine won this year, can't be held in the war-torn country. Instead, the BBC is in talks to host it in the UK. Home Secretary Priti Patel has signed an order to extradite Julian Assange to the US, where he'll face charges of espionage. The WikiLeaks founder has 14 days to appeal the decision. Mr. Assange is wanted by the American authorities over documents leaked in 2010 and 2011. London Gatwick is cutting the number of daily flights this summer to help tackle issues with staffing. The airport will limit its number to 825 flights a day in July and 850 in August, down from 900 in previous years. TV online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.232 to the dollar. It's 1.170 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,499.72 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the finance report on GB News for physical investment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah. We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's 11:36, and this is To The Point with me, Patrick Christie's, right here on GB News, live as ever on your TV, online and radio. Now, the more people feel the pinch of the cost of living crisis, the less they're able to spend. Businesses are having to think of new ways to survive what has become a very tough climate, especially for small or local businesses. Well, our North East of England reporter, Rachel Sweeney, tells us how a butcher and a brewer in Northumberland are helping each other out.
They've been selling beef for almost 150 years. Now they're brewing beer too. Turnbull's Northumbrian Food and Alnwick Brewery are ensuring growth in a tough economy by joining forces to make a traditional English golden ale. Dan Turnbull is a sixth-generation butcher. He's been learning how to add hops to the ale, which will eventually end up in some of his recipes.
Well, I think it's really important to always be diversifying the business. Butchery especially has changed a lot in the last 10 to 15 years, and we can incorporate this product into some of the products that we make as well. It keeps it nice and local. We're supporting another local run business, and in the current climate it's really important to support local businesses.
What products does the ale go into?
So we make all of our steak and ale pies using our own signature beer, and also some of the value-added butchery products that we use the beer in that as well.
At the local food hall, customers buy from both businesses. It's hoped the ale is enough to strengthen revenue while customers face a higher cost of living. The butchers and the brewery both date back to the 19th century. They're collaborating now to create an ale, Turnbull's Gold 1880, named after the year Turnbull's was launched. Phil Bell is the head brewer at Alnwick Brewery.
We've had a good relationship for a lot of years and we're good friends, so it's been a lot of fun to be able to pull together, and after 18 months we finally got there and we've got a really good solid product.
Are you proud?
Very proud, always proud.
Diversifying and standing together. Cheers to that.
All the best, mate. Thank you.
Rachel Sweeney, GB News, Northumberland.
Oh, I tell you what, it wasn't a bad day out, that, Rachel, was it? I mean, you know, bit of meat, bit of beer, what's not to love, hey? But there we are, anyway. Temperatures in Britain are expected to rise again today, with parts of southern England predicted to reach a sweltering 34 degrees Celsius, just days after Wednesday saw the hottest day of the year so far. So, while many of us will enjoy the sunshine, for those who suffer hay fever, it could be a difficult coffee sneezy day ahead. Our London reporter is at North London's famous Hampstead Heath. I believe, Alice Porter. Yes, Alice. How's it all going? You OK? How's it like there?
Well, I have to say, Patrick, about 20 minutes ago, I thought this whole story was a bit of a storm in a teacup because there was quite a big wind, the clouds were over, and I was almost thinking, oh, it's a little bit chilly. And then the clouds have opened, and I have to say, it is now absolutely boiling. It's still windy, I've got to make sure my hat doesn't blow away, but the temperatures are expected to rise even further, and by about 2 o'clock, we're expecting the capital to be at about 34 degrees Celsius. It's not the same across the country, though. My goodness me, up in Glasgow, it's raining with 13 degrees, so I have to say I'm thoroughly glad to be down here in London. There's been a weather warning for southeast. It's a level 3 heat wave warning people about their safety, for people who are vulnerable and elderly, so they need to watch themselves, but also people with hay fever, as you were saying there, because pollen levels are very high.
Have you got any plans to jump in that lake at some point?
Well, funnily enough, I had about 5 minutes ago, loads of people swimming behind me in the ponds. Their session has finished. The next one is at 12 o'clock. So I have to say, I haven't bought my swim stuff, but, you know, there's lots of people there's a huge queue of people behind me who are all waiting to jump in and cool off. A lot of people working from home, I'm getting the impression, here in northwest London. There's been so many people who've been out with their families, out with their dogs, all jumping in the ponds, which are gorgeous here at Hampstead Heath.
Absolutely. Look, Alice, thank you very much. Don't get sunburned, OK? Make sure you slap that factor 50 on. Alice Porter there, our London reporter, live from Hampstead Heath. Fantastic. But, well, I've heard about the heat in England, but it's not such good news if you live in Scotland, apparently. Steve Latto is the owner of the Criterion pub in St Andrews. And, Steve, are you putting the umbrellas up today for all of us in the sunshine heat, or are things a little bit different up there?
Putting umbrellas up for the rain, not for the heat, unfortunately. So, yeah, we've had torrential downpours all morning. So, yeah, anybody that wants to get away from the heat, come up to St Andrews. We can accommodate the cooler temperatures. And hopefully the rain will stay off a little bit, but it's not looking too good at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're trying to do there is appeal to all the English people who moan about it's too cold, but also moan when it's too hot.
Exactly.
Exactly. So if they do want to nip up there and brave the rain, what's on your menu, mate? Last time I could see your specials board, and now I can only get a little glimpse of it behind you.
Oh, we've still got our pies on the go all the time. It's graduation, so we've got 3 weeks of graduation in St Andrews at the moment. So we were hoping, when we heard about the heat wave, that it would be a great time for all the students that were graduating from 2020, 21 and 22. But unfortunately today, and I think it's the grad ball today as well for them, it's a bit rainy. But no, you can still get the cry pie until close, so pop on up.
Got ghost cheese, butternut squash and spinach behind you there, chicken chorizo, sun-dried tomatoes, steak and ale. I mean, goodness me, my mouth is salivating at the minute, I must say. But no, absolutely. But I take it I mean, just because it's raining doesn't mean it still isn't a Scottish summer.
That is a Scottish summer. You know, we get sunshine, we can get rain, hail, all in one day here, and it's the summertime. So I think everybody's pretty hardy up here. We know we're in Scotland. We know it's always going to the weather's going to be inclement and change, but you know, people just get on with it and deal with it now, and particularly, you know, post-COVID, people are more prepared and more willing to accept anything that they weren't before. So a bit of rain doesn't dampen people's spirits, particularly when they're celebrating graduation as well.
All right, well, look, thank you very, very much. Great to have you on the show, Steve. Steve Latto there up in Scotland, the owner of the Criterion pub in St Andrews. He's got the umbrellas up for the rain. Of course, you saw Alice Porter there. Goodness me. I tell you what, if she doesn't put some cream on, she's going to look like a lobster by the end of the day, bless her. We've sent her out to get a heat stroke in Hampstead Heath. But anyway, right, loads of your emails have been flooding in. gbviews@gbnews.uk. And I want to say special thanks to Eddie, who's been in touch. Eddie, just started watching GB News last week. I'll never go back to the BBC or ITV again. Eddie, good lad. Thank you very, very much. Right, there's loads of these as well. Starting about what we talked about before about the trans issues. OK, so we had a survey's just dropped. 57% of Brits do not want men who transitioned into womanhood to be competing in female events, right? I think there's a lot of people who can get on board. Well, 57% of us can get on board with that. But let children be children, says Eric. Stop filling their heads with trans nonsense. This is his view, of course. Let them have a childhood, and that's in reference to the fact that often now people are starting earlier and earlier on things like puberty blockers and all of these things. Yes, and here we go. Lots of people as well saying... talking about Sadiq Khan earlier, just a bit of an update on that, actually. We had some figures too, I think, didn't we, about Sadiq Khan was basically calling the police, essentially, the Met Police. This is institutionally racist, misogynistic, etc., saying there are huge issues. And, of course, there have been massive issues. We can't get around the fact that Sarah Everard was, kidnapped, raped and murdered by a serving Metropolitan Police officer. We've had Met Police officers taking pictures of dead bodies and sharing them around, for example. We've had incidents of out-and-out racism. And we can't get around all of that, and we don't want to diminish that. But does it mean that the police force as a whole has got a massive problem? Sadiq Khan said yes. He said it's not just about bad apples. He said, in fact, we can't just blame it on bad apples. He really was throwing an umbrella over our police force when it came to that. And a lot of you have been angry about that. A lot of you are saying, look, I think that's wrong, and that maybe Sadiq Khan should actually back off from our Met Police. But where do you stand on it? GBviews at gbnews.uk. Yeah, and also a lot of reaction as well, as it's emerged that our head of the British Armed Forces, our current head of the British Armed Forces, has said that Vladimir Putin has already strategically lost the war in Ukraine. But a lot of you disagree. Elliot's been on. Putin is just destroying the West economy, particularly the UK and the US. He wants to knock us down, stop pushing our ideals onto the East. And, there's some truth in that, really. And I think as long as Joe Biden is, I suppose, maybe in charge in America, the question is who may be in charge in America, but let's just assume it's Joe Biden. And the West is forever weaker. If America's the head of the West, as it were, and the head of America is particularly weak, then it's not good for any of us. But we've got loads coming up your way, because we are going to very shortly be going to Nathan Dunn, and I believe we might be able to do that now, actually. So, as some of you may know, I am fundraising for the mental health charity Mind. So, I've raised more than you've raised more than 800k. It's nearly 18,500 there. And my good friend Nathan Dunn, as well, has also raised several grand as well. He's fundraising too. He's doing a world record-breaking barefoot walk from John O'Groats to Land's End. He's just passed 1,000 miles and the 50% mark as well. So collectively between us there, as you can see, because we've synced our accounts, we've got £25,235,000. The target is 50 grand, and I believe he joins us now from somewhere near Cornwall. Is that right? There he is. Nathan, how are you, my good man?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So how's the walking going?
Yeah, it's good. I'm only a couple of weeks away now, so I'm feeling good, feeling motivated by the finish line. It's so close.
Study a couple of weeks away. We're going to be caning this now. I'll make sure I personally see to it every single day here, right here on GB News. We'll be putting up the links. My link is justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's, and someone's just donated. I was looking at it right now, 10 quid in the last few seconds. So thank you very much, everybody. But how are your feet, Nathan?
Yeah, they're getting stronger and stronger. Actually, starting to really adapt. It took a while. It still hurts every day, but it's less and less painful as I'm going. And as you all know, the weather's been great over the past couple of days, so that's always helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The weather's brilliant. It's a good job you're not still walking up in Scotland. I've just been to speak to someone in Scotland. They said it's absolutely tipping it down up there. But so, what kind of terrain are you on at the minute? Then it looks like you're quite rural.
Yeah, it's been mainly country roads, like little back country roads. So they've been quite nice. You get some smooth roads, you get some really gritty roads, but it's mainly the cars. If there's less traffic, then it's usually safer for me to walk on. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of roads over the past couple of days, and I'm heading more towards the coast now to follow the coast all the way. You and I
had we met up, didn't we? And we had quite a nice chat, really. I thought, really quite an important conversation. And you obviously have been very, very open about some of your struggles in the past. You're in a great place now. We're going to be playing that out in full later on my Friday night show, Friday Night Feast, 7 till 9 p.m. And I think a lot of people will find it moving. I opened up to you a bit as well. And I think it's important because we wanted to try to raise awareness of people that we should be able to talk about certain mental health issues, Nathan, didn't we? And it's important that people do talk about it, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is the best solution to to the issues that a lot of people have. You think to yourself, it can't be that simple, but it really is. I struggled so much, and I just didn't want to be here anymore. And it was talking that found me a way back to life. And yeah, more people need to do it. More people need to open up, and especially men. Men struggle to speak because we see it as a weakness, but it's really not. So yeah, that's the goal, is to get people to speak and get help.
Yeah, and again, I know we've spoken about this loads of times, but we want to just keep giving kind of your story, really, for, if it's all right with you, Nathan, of course, for our viewers, our listeners on radio, online viewers as well. If you don't know a bit about Nathan's story, I mean, just talk to people, really. You're obviously in a bit of a bad way, weren't you, mate?
Yeah, I had a difficult life. I had a lot of suffering as a child and foster care and stuff, and it just all led to a tipping point when I was when I was an adult. And before I knew it, I was standing on a bridge one night and didn't want to be here anymore. And I literally flipped a coin, the coin that I always have with me. Flipped that to decide what would happen, and luckily it landed the right way. I got down, and I knew at that moment, I scared myself into knowing that I needed help, professional help. So I spoke. I spoke out first time in my life to properly reached out for help, and I got it.
Yeah.
So.
And that's one of the things as well, and that's why we're talking about mind as well, because all too often, unfortunately, if you go through the kind of normal NHS route, as it were, you can wait months and months and months to get help. And when you're in as desperate a position as millions of people in the country will be, as you were yourself, Nathan, you need help right now. You need a bit of an intervention, and charities like Mind can do that. And so, Nathan, people will be hearing a lot more about your story and seeing the full video of us walking together later on this evening. And we're going to be hammering this throughout the course of the next couple of weeks as well as you reach your goal. We really, ladies and gentlemen, if we can, please, let's try to get to the £50,000 mark. For my part in it, I am on a weight loss journey. Slightly mixed results, although I've had a very good week this week, I must say, actually. I spent 2 hours in the gym last night and I passed out. But I will be getting my kit off on stage with the Dream Boys to try and raise awareness, a bit of awareness as well for mental health. So I'm doing something for it, but Nathan is obviously doing all of the heavy lifting, walking barefoot from John O'Groats to Land's End. But Nathan, I'll chat to you later, my good man. Good luck and well done on everything. You can see there, justgiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's is my link that you can go to and donate. And Nathan's link is justgiving.com/fundraising/walk a mile in my shoes 22. OK, so let's try and see if we can get to 50 grand in the next 2 or 3 weeks, please, ladies and gentlemen. We really can save lives together. Nathan, you're a legend. I'll see you in a bit, mate. All right, take care. Yes, good stuff. A lot more from Nathan later on. It's going to be well worth a watch, that, people. I know the Friday night show is all about, well, chaos and carnage and laughs and everything like that. And, of course, we wouldn't want to change that, but that doesn't mean that you can't take a step back every now and again and just take stock of where we are and hopefully, just like I said, just trying to affect a bit of positive change, OK? So there we go. Justgiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's. I'd just like to thank everyone who's been donating literally whilst I've been live on air. Alison in the last 2 minutes, Caroline as well, and someone who didn't leave their name on that, and Elizabeth yesterday. So thank you very much, everyone. It means the world to us all. But let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you might have missed. Tom Hanks has come out saying that it would be wrong of him to play the roles that made him famous today. So, yeah, apparently he said in 2022, he says it would simply not be right for him, a straight man, to play a gay man like he did in his film Philadelphia, which he earned an Oscar for, portraying a gay man who was dying of AIDS. Well, Hanks elaborated, saying, I don't think people would accept the inauthenticity of a straight guy playing a gay guy. This, of course, coming from actor Tom Hanks. And it's just interesting, really, isn't it, I suppose? I mean, maybe there is that. There's that argument as well, isn't there? Like, when you get someone who's playing a role of a disabled person in a film, should that role go to a disabled person, for example? I wonder. Well, there we go. Do you think that littering is sexy? Shifting tone now, people. How about putting rubbish in a bin? Does it turn you on? Well, a campaign in Sweden is hoping that it does. The Swedish city of Malmö has installed 2 trash cans programmed to respond to users with seductive audio messages in order to encourage the picking up of your rubbish. So, when you open the trash can, it responds with a host of sultry phrases of encouragement, like, come back quickly and do that again, or, oh yeah, right there, or that was crazy good. There we go. You can see now why I never got work on one of those dirty chat hotlines, can't you? But there we are. I mean, fair enough. Although, you know, given what's in Sweden, I'm not sure the bins are the sexiest thing. Now, a little reminder that every Wednesday we hand our show over to you. That's right, it's your show full of your ideas and what you want us to talk about, what you think are the most important. Well, please tell us the subjects that you want covering, the questions that you think need answering, and who we should be talking to. So guest ideas, topic ideas. Come on, people, don't be shy. We've had loads of emails yesterday, so keep them coming as well today. To the point at gbnews.uk. But, hey, that's it from me here at To The Point. Don't go away. Just a cheeky little reminder, you're not going to want to miss tonight's Friday Night Feast, 7 till 9. It's got it all, ladies and gentlemen. Loads of debate, loads of hot topics, a media and a loop-the-loop in an aeroplane, whilst raising money for charity. JustGiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's. Up next is The Briefing with Tom Harwood.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather update. Today is all about the heat in the south, but it's not hot and sunny everywhere. We have cloud and rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland this morning from this weather front. But this area of high pressure has been dominating of late. It's edging its way eastwards, which is allowing even hotter air to arrive across parts of England and Wales. That's why temperatures will peak today in the low 30s. But that weather front further north is making for a damp start. The rain should ebb away, actually, from much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, turning brighter here, but we will see some of that rain pushing into parts of northern England, clouding over a little bit across Lancashire for sure. But further south and east, most of England and Wales, dry, hot and sunny. 33, 34 in the London area up towards East Anglia. It will be cooler elsewhere, certainly some coasts will be cooler, but many places well above average. Much cooler air though for Scotland and Northern Ireland behind this weather front.